Oop.
Heyo, Duckies and Dice Fiends! Welcome on in. It is the Table Talk Show. I am Kay, one of your co-hosts, but we have a very special guest today, so we're going to fly through what we normally do and get to the really good stuff. David, who the heck is you, and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I am David, and this is the David clicks on things when he should supposed to. Tuesday Talk Table, the Table Talk show where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
As usual, David and I are continuing our playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, which you can find on Thursdays and Fridays, generally, maybe Saturdays. Yeah. Circus game for me on Wednesday over at Goblin Cave TV. That's really all I can talk about right now. Emergency Power is back starting tomorrow. It's the Book 3 epilogue because the events of the finale could not be contained to just one episode. Yeah, I love Starfinder. So, with that, we are here with an incredible guest that I am so excited to have on, producer to the stars, DC Lasair. DC, who the heck is you? And what the heck do you
everybody.
do?
I'm DC. I produce TTRPG APs. I talk about doing that at conventions. I teach people how to run tech. I moderate. I have a lot of hats. I mean, I have another one right here just in case.
Gotta have a backup hat just in case.
Yeah, and you can find me everywhere on at DC Lasair. That's DC Lasair. You go to dclasair.bio.link. That's a link to all my links. So go there. You can message me and things, and just click around because that makes the logarithm go up, and the little graph goes up. And I enjoy watching the little graph go up.
Graphs going up are a very good dopamine release. So, I actually, before I even knew who you were, I was actually watching you hone your skill, work your craft on Rivals of Waterdeep.
Yay.
Which, of course, I then, from that was one of the, for those of you who don't know, I'm newish to the TTRPG space. And, learned to play D&D and TTRPGs mostly by watching a lot of Critical Role, a lot of Shakar, a lot of Rivals of Waterdeep. So I then got to go on and meet and eventually run games for Herb and Eugenio, which was just like, that was one of those, for me, one of those I've arrived moments. I'm getting to run games for the people who taught me to play. But your productions run just smooth as silk, DC. How did
you.
How did you get in? Like, because you've spent a lot of time. For those of you who don't know, DC does an incredible Tech Friday. Every Friday, he talks about the newest stuff, not just TTRPG, not just production, but just tech. Did it start with tech and then it moved into that? But you talk a lot on that about how I am all over the place today. Sorry, y'all. It's a manic day. You talk a lot about how TTRPG production is very specific. And it's very different from a lot of other things. So how did you fall into that? Was it tech first? How did that come about?
Well, a number of years ago in the far past.
In the long future.
Yeah, before Twitch, that was a thing, right? Before online video really took off. I was in computer science going into community college, and then I'm like, I want to do video production filmmaking. So then I went on to university, and I took their film video program. And so between those two times, I volunteered at my local public access station. For those that don't know, that aren't in the US, a public access station is basically where you can go learn video production, and you volunteer your time to your community. And they do local shows and keep up with the community, and you can learn all sorts of equipment, rent it, things like that. And then I went into university where I just more specialized in those things. So I already had a big backing in that. And then I've been a video tech most of my working career in one form or another. Even if that wasn't my direct job, I was still doing something on the side involving video. And then I kind of got away from it for a bit, and I started on Twitch. I started moderating, and then one day someone who trusted said, "Hey, I'm looking for someone." I'm like, I've looked at some of these programs that do that. I think I can do that. And it was someone I knew, and I'm like, okay. So, and yeah, and those skills just transferred right over into.
Very nice. And so yeah, video production obviously is a great background to have. I, for those who don't know, I work in video games. So I kind of learned live streaming, watching other people pull together these video game streams so that they could, showcase their thing. And I was like, oh, I think I could do that. Like, especially when I worked for Red Bull, a lot of those setups were far more than I could ever dream of affording, much less pulling off. But so how did you go from like video tech into the TTRPG space? That's
Well, I've been playing D&D for 20 some years now, and so my friends started talking about this show called Critical Role, and I'm like, okay, where can I watch it? I'll watch a couple episodes, and this was season 1 of Critical Role, and I started watching. I got into it.
Best audio ever.
Yeah. And then one of the cast members was going to be on another channel. I'm like, oh, well, I kind of like this person. I'll go watch what else they're doing. And then I started getting involved in that community. And I was just being pleasant to people, saying hi, and, got to know people in the community coming back in. And the people who ran that channel saw that and go, hey, you want to be a moderator? I'm like, oh, okay, sure. I'll do that for you. And, this all connects, trust me. So from there, people like, when I was doing moderating, at one point I was moderator for 20 different channels, right?
Wow.
I had the mod sword on 20 Twitch channels. Luckily, I never had to do them at the same time, but, and so I was doing that for a while, and eventually got to be a paid moderator for a couple places. And I'm like, yay, great. And eventually that led me, like I indicated earlier, someone said, hey, I need someone to do video production. And I just threw my head out there. I'm like, I believe this is something I can do. I was part of another channel that was doing some games. I'm like, I think this can go a little smoother. And so I was asked to go on to do this. I'm like, yeah, I think I can figure this out. And I downloaded OBS. I looked at OBS. I'm like, okay, this is exactly like the video switcher I saw when I was at public access. I get this. I understand this. This is gold, right? And then I just kept learning from there. And yeah.
That's great. We our first episode of the year, we did like a make your move in 2024, because we kind of asked people like, what do you want to do this year? What are your goals? And so many people were like, I want to be on a streamed AP. I want to be invited to an AP or a podcast. Like and of course everyone's like, how do I do it? How do I get there? And the first answer is always be in chat, be in the Discord, let people know that you're there and you exist and you are pleasant. And so it's great that you can say that, because that is echoing exactly all the advice we've given. And I like giving advice that works. I don't like giving bad advice, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's one thing I've noticed since we've started the talk show, actually a couple years ago now, and one thing I've noticed after watching like trusted, informed, reasonable sources, like whenever I can, I pop in on DC Lasair stream, even if I'm just lurking. Also, DC Lasair reposts, if not all of them, at least a lot of them on his YouTube. Please go check it out. Um, there's a link in chat. There will be another link in chat shortly. But the number of people, not just in our space, but in tons of different spaces, who just decide they're an expert on something and then go and start talking out of their ass is unconscionable. It is incredible the number of people who are like, I've had zero success in this field. Let me tell you how you have success in this field. Insane, crazy, ludicrous. And so it's really nice to have people like DC Lasair who have not just a lot of experience in TTRPGs, but a lot of like relevant adjacent professional experience to come in and say, okay, well, here's how you do this tech thing that you absolutely need in order to like. Kay and I were working on the channel over the weekend, and like between the two of us, we went through like 6 YouTube videos trying to figure out how to do one specific thing, and all of the titles had "this is how you do this one specific thing," and all 6 of them were wrong. And it's like, come on now, this is crazy. But I do have, I actually have a number of questions for you. One is like, I'm sure a lot of people like behind the scenes come to you for advice and like ask questions. What's like the most common question that you get from people, and what is the answer to that question?
I don't know. Everyone kind of comes at me at a slightly different angle. And most common question, usually it's just getting started with OBS and what does that mean? And, you know, so I go through OBS and what the scene bucket is, what the sources bucket is, things like that. And that gets them started. And my favorite tip of all, because amazingly, even people who have done this for a year or two don't know about hitting the Alt key when resizing a source in OBS. And it's like the most magical piece of advice I can give. It's like, yes, you drag if you want to size it, but if you want to crop, hit the Alt key on that source and they'll crop the image. And hitting the Alt key is magic advice every time to somebody. So
I was trying, because I taught David remotely how to use OBS.
Yep.
And so like teaching someone remotely while they're actually, it's like, no, Alt and okay, hold on, stop. We're just going to restart. That Alt took a minute, but we got there.
We did get there.
And now David runs almost all the production for this channel. So look at this, star on the rise.
If I can learn, if as an old man I can learn new skills, so can you.
And one thing, like we talked about when you came out, like you are an incredible source of knowledge and information and sharing with the community. But one thing I've really found is just how incredibly generous with knowledge. Again, not always accurate or good or even the best, but how generous everyone in not just streaming, but very specifically TTRPG is with all of their experience, be it GMing, be it production, be it tools. In fact, I'm always trying to figure out how to streamline and optimize what we do. I hate certain things with passion and just want them to be better. And I'd gone down a black hole of like, okay, I think this will make this work. I know this other program can do it. So can I do this? I was posting in my Discord, like, can anyone read these patch notes? Can anyone read this and actually make it make sense? Because my brain is done. And DC was the first to pop in and be like, yeah, you can, but it's going to cost you a lot. I'm like, okay, that's, and so that's, I'm setting this up because I'm going to tell the advice that, or the information that I give people that I've heard other people say, and I would love for you to echo it if you find it true or disagree if it's not true. I feel like just about anyone in streaming, or especially in TTRPG streaming, is more than happy to answer a question or even walk you through or give you a tutorial or a video for something if you have a specific question or a specific starting point. Most people, like, the most frustrating questions are people come in and go, "Hi, how do I do this?" Or how do I at all? How do I anything? I want to stream how. And I found that the best advice that I get, the best answers that I get are when I come in and say, "Okay, I want to do X. I've tried Y and Z. It doesn't work because Q. How do Q? Is it possible?"
Yeah, and getting that, even, working with people and narrowing down that to that specific question that helps them get started. That can be a thing in itself, right?
Right.
Just kind of getting their barriers down and helping them to kind of constrain. Okay, I can help you with a specific thing, but I need a starting point. I where to start. Do you know OBS? Let's start there. And
I will help you figure out how to set up your OBS, but I cannot set up the entire OBS for you.
That costs a lot of money. A lot. And an important thing for people to remember is that a lot of people that you watch on stream, even if they aren't necessarily big streamers, have paid a lot of money for their setup. And we're not talking their computer and their lights and their camera. We're talking about the software and assets that they use. And like OBS is free. The number of people who slap down hundreds of dollars to have someone come and set up their OBS for them. And I get why. Like, I've watched, like, if Kay charged $500 an hour for StreamerBot, it would be a steal, because I've watched Kay for 3 hours straight staring at StreamerBot getting it to work. And there are people who have like way more robust things, like a lot of the stuff that DC teaches on his channel has been incorporated into a lot of other streams. And you're like, and we can sit back and go, "Oh, you have all these things going on your screen. It's all cluttered and whatnot, and it's a mess." And that may be true, but also executing all that is really complicated. And people will sit down and ask, "Well, how do you stream? Well, how do you set up OBS? Well, you do how do you get all of them going at this?" And it's like, those are questions with such a big scope that is a big time and effort investment to teach someone to do it, especially when just doing it is easier. There's like an old meme on the internet where some like construction worker was like put up a sign. It's like, it costs this much to do it. It costs this much more if you want to watch. It costs this much more if you want me to explain it to you, and it costs even more if you want to help. Like, so remember that when people like DC and K and Mimics and Misfits have all said, like, the TTRPG community, especially like the professional side of it, they're very welcoming, they're very willing to help. But remember that a lot of what they're giving you is like highly specialized, highly specific knowledge. And be appreciative of like they're giving that to you for free when it's taken a lot of time and energy and expertise to even like get to the point where they could learn that thing.
So what's been your favorite discovery, DC? What's been your favorite upgrade, discovery, addition, cool thing that you figured out you could do?
Oh, that I figured out that I do. Like I have my favorite hardware thing, but thing I could do.
Or tell us your favorite hardware.
Okay, well, that's the Stream Deck. I love this thing. Again, video switcher buttons. That's I need my buttons.
Buttons are nice.
But just I think when I started producing shows, the ease at which OBS did a lot of things, coming from the the sort of analog world of broadcasting and everything like that, and then going, oh, that makes that so much easier. Okay. Oh, yes, I understand this better. Okay, wait, I know how to do this thing if I had wires, but how do I do it digitally? And finding out that stuff was a great feeling. Like, okay, I get this now. Yay.
I was having massive audio issues with my computer for ages, and was working with Voicemeeter Banana, and like was just having weird quirks and just trouble and couldn't quite get it. And I was complaining at work, and my coworker, who's an audio director for a AAA game, was like, I'll come over and look at it. And I'm like, and then he sits down, he's like, and he's like, he's incredible. He was so kind. He's like, no, I'm happy to do it. And he starts looking at it and he's like, okay, I vaguely understand all of this because of like actual physical things. And I think this is the problem. And it was just incredible to watch his mind like going through it all. Yes, I adore my streamer bot. It is, or my stream deck. We just set up, and it's not fully set up, but we set up all the commands and everything. So in case you don't know, y'all, this is the K tip, which DC's probably already covered. But if you use StreamerBot, you can set up StreamerBot commands, and then you can have a StreamerBot deck, and you can open it on your phone. So you can turn your phone or your tablet into a Stream Deck and not have to pay the extra, and then you can set up all your StreamerBot commands. So, and multi-actions. And so it's very nice if you're like, I can't afford, and look, y'all, I also love my Stream Deck. It's wonderful. But if you can't afford it, or your desk is too cluttered, you can do it with your phone and StreamerBot. And that was such a joy to figure out. And the best part about that is you can set it up so you can share that with your co-producer,
Yes.
or your mods. So if you get rated in the bad way, you can just hit the emergency button, and you've got 3 different people who can hit it all at once, which was a lovely little discovery.
Yeah, I really like that about StreamerBot. I did a whole episode with Urban Bohemian on using the StreamerBot deck thing. I just gave him control of the stream, basically. Like, he could mute me and change my voice and, whatever. And that was, StreamerBot, for those that don't know, is a bot, and it's free. And you might have to get into programming a little bit, but some of the basic stuff's real easy to figure out and do. And on their website, they have this thing where you can click make a deck, and you just tell it to the person has to agree through their Discord account to be on there. And once they do that, they have whatever buttons you set up, and you can make StreamerBot function like a Stream Deck and share it with people.
And StreamerBot, like, there's definitely like a lot of like programming stuff in it, which makes it incredibly robust, but also makes it not exactly user friendly. Hey, Herb.
Hey, speak of.
And Kay threw a StreamerBot problem at me that I am still working on, because there's a lot of like staring at code and going, oh my God, what does this do? Going goblin mode. And one of the things is, so like, despite the fact that Kay and I both like looked at a bunch of YouTube videos that didn't explain what we needed it to explain, there are also a lot of resources on StreamerBot on YouTube, and from a lot of small creators that have spent the hours and hours and hours working on it. And that's one of the great things about like the modern, or postmodern, because it's not post, that's literary terms, don't ignore that, I didn't say anything, but in our current era is so many things that you're curious about or interested about, you just go on the internet and find out from experts what's going on. And it's been really fascinating digging into the things that StreamerBot can do.
Mhm.
Um, but I also want to
And
circle back to like, well, did you have a point?
before you do really quick, I'm going to say if you are looking for really, really cool tips and tricks and cool things you can do with StreamerBot, and I do need to introduce you to this person, DC. My friend, Mr. Live Producer, is one of the alpha testers and has created a whole bunch of really cool things that we use StreamerBot for, and is going to be putting those out either in tutorials or free downloads. So go check out Mr. Live Producer. Now,
And
go, David.
people are making like cool plugins and stuff for OBS and for um, other streaming related programs, which is also really cool. But to like circle back to your statement about like you knew what the cables were supposed to do, and so you're like, okay, if the cables could do it, this software could do it. Um, and a friend of mine who I live with is an audio engineer and has worked for Focusrite and what's the other one, Apogee, um, in tech support, and so has like been on the phone with people who are like, listen, I produced this hit record in 1971. I know where the cables are supposed to go. What the hell is this supposed to do? And had to like work with people to bridge that gap. And there is a huge advantage that people who have like multiple disciplines coming into streaming have over like your average person. And like don't let that discourage you. But if you know people who have those relevant disciplines, like talk to them and ask them about it, because most of us are trying to figure out where the cables are supposed to go at the same time as we're trying to figure out the software. And so like if you have an understanding of like pipelines, like just pipelines when it comes to audio engineering, you have a big leg up compared to someone who's like, how do I OBS?
Yeah. Well, like David's learning coding. And what's it called? I'm like, David, what's it called? I have it written I can't find it's written. I've got too many to do things. But like I'm like the global preset value. Can I make that pipe somewhere else? I don't know coding enough to know if I could do this, but you might. So go see if you can figure that out, and then maybe together we can make a thing do a thing that I want the thing to do. But yes.
But
what?
I want to ask you about Meat Space because you mentioned like helping people set up actual plays at cons.
Hmm.
And there is sort of like there's this mystique around being on the other side of the veil at conventions because like all of us know what it's like being a not customer but like being part of the public and like crossing that veil to now I'm involved with the production of the con or now I'm running a thing at the con. Like I've had people ask me and I'm like, how? And I've been on the other side of it. Like I've shown up to multiple conventions where I was working there. And my answer to everyone is, well, I knew somebody who needed an extra pair of hands and so I went. But if somebody wants to go, hey, I have an actual play that I want to run and set up as like a performance, or I want to like, you know, be a part of all the people who are running tables at tabletop conventions, like what advice would you give to someone who comes to you like that?
Well, for me, a lot of it was, I took my experience, and I'm nervous, have anxiety, and all this, and I struggle with that. And I DM for my friends because I like, okay, I've written scripts, I've been paid to write scripts. I think I can DM a game, and it's like, okay, so I gotta trust my gut on these things that I've learned at university and everything. And the same thing with tech. It's like I know how to do this. I can help other people go forward. I just kind of trusted my knowledge on it. And that's how I started until I got more confident in doing it. Is like I just go up and go, okay, I know what I'm doing. I can talk to people about this, and so and yeah, the first couple times were kind of terrifying. But go just going there and being prepared, maybe even being a little over prepared. I did it like when I first DM'd for my friends, and this was maybe I said I've been playing for 20 years. I've been DMing for 6, maybe 7, and the first time I did it, I'm like, okay, I got this. All right, and I've been watching live streams at this point, and I've been working on timing and things like that. And so then I gave myself a challenge to DM for my friends. I'm like, okay, can I do this on 2 pages of notes? Can I do this on a page of notes? Can I run a 3-hour game on a half page of notes?
Wow.
And so yeah, and because I had all this background stuff prepared, and I just had a half page of notes for that particular session, and I go, okay, I have my background stuff, and here's what's going on this session. This is all I need for this session, and go from there. And so a lot of that was just, being prepared and knowing your world essentially, or knowing what plot things you wanted to happen, and if the characters got towards one thing or the other, being able to go, okay, so you're more going towards this plot thing. Let's take this, drop that here, and go. And I don't know if that answered your question anymore or not.
It's funny because Kay and I have both had the experience of going, well, I'm not well versed in the Forgotten Realms. I'm not going to be able to handle questions people. So I'm just going to come up with my own thing and then build the whole thing from the ground up and really flesh it out to the point where at one point I was talking to Kay about the politics 1,000 years prior in another country from where the game was happening, and Kay was like, why are we talking about this? What are we this is fascinating and all, but what are you? And I was like, oh, I'm in the weeds, aren't I? But
which isn't a bad thing to consider, but at that point in the world building, we didn't need it.
Right. And what's funny is I did all of that world building, and my players still managed to go, so what about this thing? And I went, oh no, what do I do? I have nothing for this. And so some a lot of people who watch us have DM before. Some people who've watched us have DM streams before, and some people who watch us are interested in DMing both home games and for actual plays and live streams and recordings and whatnot. And I will tell you this much: every person who is DM'd professionally, on stream, at home, has had a moment where their players have done something or asked something, and you've gone, what do I do? That is natural. That is okay. And it is okay to say, well, shit, I got to take a moment and figure this out.
Yeah, talk amongst yourself, please.
Right. And I have watched live streams where somebody's gone, and then hit the be right back screen and was gone for 5 minutes, and then came back and was like, okay, I think I figured it out now. And that's perfectly that's not only okay, but that's normal, that it will happen to you.
So we have not one, but 2 questions for you, DC. It's the same question, which is, how are you so awesome?
Yes. That is the secret.
I don't know. Just being kind to people, I suppose.
Look, being kind is baseline, and yet it seems to be so hard for so many people.
Yeah, kind words are free. Mean words are free. I should know because I've given a lot of them over the years. If you come up with a popped collar, I've got plenty of words for you that are 100% free and 100% mean. But also kind words are free, encouraging words are free, and often they are harder to say than the mean thing. And as I said on the channel before, like people will say, like you go on the internet and you will meet mean people. Like I've played competitive video games online. Mean people are de rigueur, okay? But and people say, well, you should be prepared for that because the world is like a harsh, mean. But the reason the world is a harsh, mean place is because we've made it that way. Like we humans decided what we. So guess what? We could decide we want it to be different. So if you don't want to live in that world, then start being the change you want to see.
Matt would like to know. I think it was Matt. Hold on. Oh god, chat has moved since I looked to the side to read the other chat. What's something that you've set up for a stream that you're most proud of?
I think the first time I did a stream, or I produced a stream, and they asked for lack of a better term, multiple camera angles, like going from the full group to single cameras, and just figuring that out and setting that up. And they were very happy with the results of that. And yeah, I was glad I could do that. And, I kind of had an idea how to do it, and it worked out. And so I was kind of proud of that moment. And there's other things too, where just figuring out a thing, I'm like, oh, hey, this works. Yay, me. There's times where it didn't work, but that happens,
And Starless Solid has a question, which is something I'm always looking into this because background music. What's your approach? What's your thoughts?
Okay. So I use a combination of things. This may be a little more explaining than what you're intending, but
that's what we're here for.
Learn too.
So I use Spotify, and I use Lo-Fi Girl on Spotify, and those are tracks you can use on your stream. All you gotta do is credit Lo-Fi Girl in your description, and if you go to the Lo-Fi Girl website, they explain how to credit them. And I use a free software from Logitech that's in beta called Mixline, which does all my audio routing for me. Amazing. Even though it's in beta, I think you can still sign up for it and get it and play with it. And I also use something called Amuse plugin by 6K Labs. Now, there's something called Amuse software, which is audio things, but you want to go to 6K Labs Amuse, and that's what you need for their plugin. And so this plugin displays what song Spotify is playing on my stream for me. And I just have Spotify routed Mixline to be one of the channels on my audio mixer going out to all of you. And so I can easily adjust the volume to it and then lower it down. And yep, that's the link in chat. So go there, do the thing. And yeah, I just keep it low when I need to. And also, there is a thing that I haven't done too much of until recently. So it's called audio ducking. And what that is when an audio source comes on, say my voice, the music automatically drops. And in OBS, you do this with the compressor filter. Now, the compressor filter on its own does various things. But if you set the bottom thing, there's a line at the bottom of your selections to do a thing, and you set that as a source. You set your source. So I would set my microphone as a source or compressor, and it goes, okay, when this now compressor becomes an audio ducking thing and doesn't do what it normally does. Now it does audio ducking, and you select, the when it comes on and when it goes off and how all that functions. And when you start, so when you start talking to your mic and it detects that you're talking into your mic, it will lower the volume of whatever you set that filter on. So I recently did a thing on YouTube Shorts, having random YouTube Shorts play during my BRB screen, And one of the things it does is audio ducking. So when the stream comes up, Spotify comes down, and I don't have to worry about it. When it's done playing, Spotify comes back up automatically. And yeah, so that's how I handle those things.
Well, chat, I'm totally not
that.
like clicking on OBS and like clicking on filters and looking at this right now. That's not something I would do. Not live. Mm-mm. No,
Please
that's
just
really
Doing
cool.
it live.
Play with it live.
Yeah, like I've clicked enough bad things in the past like 2 weeks and broken the stream enough times where I need to give Kay at least like a week break from breaking things on stream. But like come February, every stream I'm gonna break something. Just wait.
I'm very excited. I am genuinely excited, David, for when you get comfortable enough with OBS and or StreamerBot, if that ever happens, where you're just like, so I did a thing. Like if that comes in and it's like, I did a thing and it mostly works. This little thing is broken. Can you fix it? Like that, I will be so thrilled. I will also say, so Starless Solid, I'm not sure if you're looking for just streaming stuff or specifically TTRPG. My hack, because David and I run a lot of games for a lot of incredible people, many of whom are neurodivergent, and music can absolutely make or break it for them. I use a program called Bardly. It is free. There is a $5 a month subscriber tier where you get access to more music and you can upload your own. And it is just like I'm always looking for other options, of course, but it's a web player. So I build a playlist. I can hit play. I can send the URL to everyone else. It'll play through their browsers and they can adjust the volume independently. So for some people, they're like, I need music, or I'm going to just go off into space. And there are some people who are like, if you play music at me, I will not be able to concentrate at all on what you're saying. And I like that because it gives the players a little more. Of course, if you're using Discord, I think there used to be a lot. There's like exactly one Discord player bot that works now, and people can adjust that volume locally. Yeah. For the Emergency Power Podcast, we use Mumble, and our producer actually will pipe the music through into Mumble for us. So there are lots of options. DC's is definitely the most slick, especially for just streams.
And I should say, when I do TTRPGs, I use Sirenscape. I've used Sirenscape for years. They are a subscription service, but they're the best. And total side note, but if you get the Waterdeep Dragon Heist sound pack from Sirenscape, my voice is part of it. In the Waterhavian, there's a mix called Waterhavians, which they set up a sound booth at a Gen Con. You went in and you said lines. They chose some lines. So it's random what lines you get. But if you hear someone screaming pie for sale, that's me.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Now I need some sort of Waterdeep, like, drama thing of pies for sale and the cabbage guy from Avatar.
Yeah.
I already have a thing. I already have a pie vendor.
And so, yeah, I was very happy when my lines got in there. Right? Like, that's cool. Like, it's just random if it comes up or not if you click that sound effect. Yes. But so I went through it the first time I got it and just waited until I got to my line. I'm like, yay!
Yeah, just do that. Was that me? No. Was that me? No.
No.
And for
I would argue, Herb, because I am an autodidact. If you don't know what an autodidact is, that's people who like to teach themselves rather than being taught. Didn't like school, love learning. It's really a problem. I break everything. I back up everything so that I can break it, and once I have broken it and I cannot unbreak it, I can just back up to the original and then figure out why I broke it. So I would say break everything, but back up everything before you break it so you can just restore it.
And for people who are neurodivergent, like both Kay and I recognize, like when we run our games, we have like themed music. Thank Kay, because Kay doesn't just like come up with the music for like the game that we're playing. Kay will put together an entire Spotify list of like, these are the songs that inspired the game. And Kay will be like, hey, do you have anything that you want to add to this? And will like send me a list or send me a Spotify playlist. And I'll like click on it and I'm like, how did you have 136 songs on this? But if you are like, listen, I either can't listen to music or I can't listen to this music, that's okay. We've had performers get on, ignore our Bardley link, put on their own music, and deliver great performances, including the person who was listening to like the poppiest K-pop during one of the most heart-wrenching scenes. So like, if you have an approach to your character and your performance and it helps you perform better, then follow that approach. Don't feel like pressured to be like, well, I gotta listen to this really like crappy music that this person can. At least with us, you don't gotta.
We have a very controversial question that's going to start fights, I'm sure. DC, what is the proper name for a carbonated beverage?
Pop.
David's
Why would they do
face
this?
right there, y'all.
Why?
David's judgment face right there.
Why would? Look. An important note about language. Language is about the communication of thought and meaning. My mother used to get, like, she'd be on the phone talking to one of her friends, and then she'd go, "Hey, go get me the thing," and you guys can't hear my fingers snapping, but my fingers are snapping, and she would snap her fingers and point, and then I would go get the thing that she needed and bring it to her. And that's all language is for the communication of ideas. And so there are people who say pop when they mean soda, and I understand that they mean soda. And it is important that, like, I understand that regardless of what word they're using, I know what thing they mean. But luckily, I translate things to the proper vocabulary in my head.
I'm gonna absolutely terrorize David now because
Yep.
I grew up in Texas, and we had iced tea and we had Coke.
Yep.
And whatever it was, and I remember I went to college in Michigan, and I went up to Michigan, and the waitress asked me, "What do you want to drink?" And I said a Coke, and she said, "Okay," and walked away. And I'm like, she didn't ask me what kind of Coke. She
Yep.
didn't ask me what kind of Coke. I didn't want a Coke. I wanted a Dr. Pepper. But you don't say I want a Dr. Pepper. You say I want a Coke. They say, what kind of Coke?
Yep.
Then you say Coke, Sprite.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I am in Michigan, and yeah, it's pop everywhere here.
Yeah.
Hello,
What
Always
kind
pop.
of?
Welcome on in.
And like, I grew up and live in Los Angeles, and south of Manchester, for those people who live in Los Angeles, like if you're south of Imperial and you walk into a mom and pop shop, they will walk up to you and be like, "So what kind of Coke you want?" And you got to know. And like the very like small pockets of like, this place is like Texas Southern versus this place that's like not just Louisiana but like New Orleans Southern. And like we have like Creole places and we have Cajun places, and so like there's this great sort of diversity of lexicon that you encounter in certain parts of the city, which I don't feel like you get in a lot of major cities in the United States. Definitely not in Portland. I spent a lot of time in Well, not a lot of time, but like in the total of like a month I've spent in Portland, got precisely none of that. Oh yeah, and yeah, there are if you order tea and you don't specify that you mean hot tea, then you're getting a glass filled with ice that is no less than 55% sugar, as it was meant to be.
And you also have to really specify if you want if you say iced tea, it's going to be sweetened. You have to say, I want unsweetened iced tea. And then also, you sometimes have to ask if they are true sophisticates and they have sun tea. Because that's a whole other, cannot be mistaken. But yes. The real tell is when you say, I'd like a Coke, and they look at you and say, we only have Pepsi products. And it's like, that's
like,
not...
I didn't ask you if you have Pepsi. Bring me a Coke.
Yes, I even have a command in my chat, and it's mostly just to mess with Urban Bohemian. But if you type !pop, it pops up is the correct name for soda. And, if you ever need to know my opinions on that, just go to my channel, type in !pop. There you go.
Another question inspired from your channel is, what is your favorite hat and where did it come from?
Oh, my favorite hat is, let's see here. Oh, well, I can go get it. I'll
go
step
get
around
it.
Entertained. So yes, for those of you who, oh god, and mine isn't even here. So yes, we got the Book of Many Things and the Deck of Many More Things yesterday. So if you haven't seen, we posted video and some photos of that, and we're going to be going through them. I think we might be we don't have a special guest next week, so we might actually be going through that and the new D&D book. So if you are a 5e not lover, next episode might not be the one for you, but I think that's what we might.
You should still show up anyway, because Kay will be very entertaining.
Oh.
This came from Harry the Hatter in Detroit.
Detroit.
Yeah.
That is.
I like this one.
Yeah.
It has its own box.
I am
just because they gave it to me in a box.
So I'm glad that there's still a bespoke boutique hat culture that still exists. And also despite the fact that I haven't been, I have a particular love affair with Detroit, because Detroit is a collision of all of my favorite places are collisions of a lot of different cultures all smushed together, because you have a lot of Southern influence in Detroit because that's where the black people came from, and there's this rich music tradition. There's a really huge art tradition in Detroit that almost no one knows about. And there was a really terrible movie that came out year before, that kind of hinted at it. Barbarian, if anyone has seen it. Look, I'm not going to talk about it on stream, but I have a 45-minute rant about why Barbarian wasn't a good movie. But one thing that it highlighted is there's a big artist community, and there's been a big, very specific artist community in Detroit for a very long time. And just and then obviously you have the history of the auto industry and a lot of other metallurgy focused industries, and how that the working class has influenced the art that has been developed around that time. And there's just a lot of history and interesting stuff about Detroit, and I don't think Detroit gets enough credit for its contribution to the overall cultural heritage in the United States.
So, DC, if someone is starting out, and now obviously you have to know how to click go live on OBS. You have to the beyond just the absolute very basics, right? If someone came to you and is like, DC, I want to run a game and do some decent, make it look decent, and maybe do some decent clips around it, make some advertising materials. What do you think are the very most, like I said, beyond just the basics of knowing how to go live, what are the basic skills that will help someone establish themselves as a producer and or a channel?
So as a producer, and some people may say this is a bad answer, but I believe it's the most important answer. If you're producing, the top skill you can learn or teach yourself is timing. You usually have, say, roughly 2 hours for a stream, and so you gotta know your intro time, and then how long does it take you to introduce your cast, and then after that is how much time you have to play, and then you also need your outro time. And you got to fit all that in 2 hours. And so learning how to time out a show, just watch a show and see what they do. Like, you know, you're after your intro, say your first 10 minutes should be around intros. And then after that, you get into the play. And then you need 10, 15 minutes to wrap everything up and give the cast their proper outros, because everyone deserves credit for what they're doing. And yeah, a lot of it's timing and just having that sense of, you know, when things need to go. I usually go, okay, if I run a combat, and this is for D&D basically, you know, I heard somewhere recommend that combat should go about 3 rounds in D&D. So I'm like, okay, how long will this take my players? And got into 45 minutes is a good estimate. So if I don't have 45 minutes of that 2-hour time booked for combat, I'm not getting through that whole combat that episode. And so it just, yeah, timing is a very important skill. I know it can be passed around. It can be almost, like I said, a pat answer, but it is really important to know timing, because you want to get in and out. And maybe, you know, like I had other shows coming on after me. You want to respect their time too, right? Like maybe if you don't have anything on after you, you can go a little longer. And forgiveness, you know, we're not quite like TV where we're quite as rigid, but we still got to respect everyone's time, not only of yourself and your cast, but of the people coming after you. If there's a show coming after you, they want to start on time. They want to have their full 2 hours as well. So being conscious of that, and figuring out your timings. And even if you have to write it down and put a sticky note up somewhere, like, okay, 10 minutes in, I need to do this, you know, 30 minutes in, we should be through the first bit of the story. And, you know, and so you can just, just watch actual plays, take an actual play, maybe a shorter episode somewhere, and just know how long it takes them to get from intros to story to how long does combat take, how do they separate that out. And kind of dissect one, and you'll get a rough idea of what you need to do. And then after you work with people enough, you'll get a sense of their timings and get it down. And it may take 3 episodes for that to happen, and that's fine, right? Like it's okay. This stuff takes time, and it's okay to take that time.
Cato on YouTube asked, where did the 3 rounds per combat come from? This is my first exposure to this concept.
I can't remember where I heard it from. I'm sorry. It was just a thing I heard someone tell me, and I don't have a direct source, but yeah, piece of the deep lore that somehow stuck in my head. And like I said, it can take a group of 4 people about 45 minutes to go through 3 rounds of combat.
Yeah.
And
it definitely takes a while, especially with a bigger party.
Yeah, and that's one of the like important things that you need to like. So many people have asked Kay and I about the stuff that we run, and DC, I'm sure many people have asked you about what you run. And one of the things that we don't really talk about a lot is, like you said, timing. Like the timing is really important. And on the back end, whether it be like production wise or with Kay and I, we run off of scripts. So working on the scripts, the number one question I have for Kay is, oh my God, is this enough? And then Kay looks at me and is like, what are you talking about? We could run 2 games with this. And I'm like, but I want to make sure because, and one of the things that Kay is great at is landing the plane on time. And so, like, you know, you'll have a 3-hour game with 6 people, and your timing changes with that versus a 4-hour game with 4 people. Like, your breaks are at different times. Like, your combat, like how complex or simple your combat runs. And you know, we've been really fortunate. I think with the Christmas game, we were 6 minutes over time when we wrapped up. And DC is particularly right in the respecting of other people's time. because like, you know, Kay and I, we run our own channel. Like who gives a shit if we go over? Like, I dare somebody tell us like, well, it's my turn now. No, it's still my turn. It's
You
mine.
don't have our stream key.
Right. But we're very fortunate that we get very popular players, people who have a lot of stuff to do. And we've had people on the talk show or in games we've run where they've gone, okay, I have a hard out at such and such a time because I have a zero session after this, or because I have a game on another channel, or I have a recording to do, or I have a podcast. Like, people are very busy, and people have day jobs. People are tired. We've had games where people were sick and were powering through to perform for us. And so we're not going to like drag you out for another 45 minutes. And we've even had people come back and go, "Hey, listen, we recorded this thing. Do you want us to re-record it because we were like, you know, I wasn't feeling great. I was sick." And we're like, "No, your performance was awesome. We appreciate your time." But both we and they were cognizant of the fact that they were not feeling well. And we're like, we're not going to keep you in this torture chamber any longer than you need to be. And so timing breaks, figuring out how long intros and outros are. A 5-minute break is actually a 10-minute break. A 10-minute break is actually a 15-minute break. And if your break is 15 minutes, then I don't know what to tell you. But all of that is like really important, and it's one of those signs of like, well, have you done this a lot or not?
Rex says regarding the 3 rounds of combat, he believes he heard that from Jeremy Crawford, or maybe Mike Shea / Flourish. So it does feel like one of those, like, especially because combat can drag. And that's one thing that David and I really try to do for both one-shots and games is we write episodes kind of modularly. So we can be like, okay, everyone, we had a really great role play, but that means we're going to have to miss one of the Christmas episodes. We had a whole Wishing Well with riddles. And we're like, Wishing Well's gone. They did some great RP. That's fine, right? So if you have unimportant things that you can just yank out of your sessions, that helps a lot. Herb, I over-prepare. Don't ask. David will shame me for how much I write for every episode. And I know we're not getting to it all. And then I just put it in a different episode. So it's just easy. Like, that goes into a different game. So I will shame no one for over-preparing. Also, one of the things that we do is, this was very obvious at the Christmas, in this last, the Lullaby for Christmas Lich game, we gave players great big emergency pull, get out of combat quickly buttons. Because we wanted them to earn the victory, but we also wanted to give them enough things where we weren't stuck for 6 rounds of combat, an hour over, because we had a boss full of hit points. No, we had very topical things, levers that could be pulled to let them get out of combat quickly. And yes, learning timing is really, really hard, but it's so important. And David likes to talk about how good I am at timing. It's because I sat down to wanting to run APs, and I'm like, I'm going to watch Black Dice Society. I'm going to watch Shakar with that bronze girl. And I just sat down and watched my favorite DMs and how did they time it and how did things feel and when did they cliffhanger and how did they get everyone out of a situation so that they could end the game on time. And that is something that you can only learn by watching and doing. And the exact ratio of watching to doing is going to change for every single person.
And one more thing I'd like to bring up with timing. Also, figure out how much time you need before you hit that go live button for people to come in. How much time do you need to set up the stream? Now, usually, for whatever reason, we get it. We're lucky if we get a half hour to do that. And, you know, so I'm very busy in that half hour. That means I kind of need you to be on time, please, because I need everybody in the call to set up cameras. It's not like we have a studio where I can come in an hour before and just go, okay, you're going to be about here, and have physical cameras to move and just set and then quickly readjust. I need you in the space. And you got to decide how much time that takes you. And, you know, I've done 6-8 people on a stream, and that half hour, oh boy, that was a lot, especially just starting my first time. You know, eventually I got it down, right? But that takes time to to learn to be able to speed through, and that's just practice and going through it and going, okay, learning how to size the boxes for your overlay and things like that. But knowing that time, how much you need, and if it's 45 minutes, and tell people the time you need, communicate that time you need. If you're new, say, hey, I'm new, I know it's usually 30 minutes, I'm going to need 45 just to make sure, or whatever you're comfortable with. And that's another part of timing, is right before you go live, how much time do you need? So the stream, everything on the stream hopefully works. Like, stuff is going to fail. Even if you're live and you have everything up, something terrible is going to happen. It's okay. You can handle it. I believe in you. But everything you need to prepare ahead of time.
And don't be afraid to tell people, I need 45 minutes for the first 2 episodes, maybe 3. And then after we've got everything going, then we can show up 30 or even 15 minutes before, depending upon how good everyone is. One of the shows I'm on, one person always has a hum in their microphone. And we know it, and they know it, and they get on early, and we go through it, and we try all the different ports until the hum goes away. And it's usually the second port that they tried, but the 3rd or 4th time they tried it, right? So know, if you're a person who has a tech gremlin, be prepared, like, just do that communication. Again, I'm pointing no fingers, but I was on a show where we canceled a stream because we were 2 hours into when we showed up a half hour early. We were 2 hours into when the stream should have started, and the stream was still being set up. And the following episode, we only got an hour of play because they spent the rest of that time setting up tech. That's not a good experience.
And like with Kay and I, so like we do the talk show, we green room about half an hour before. And we do it all the time, so it's like, we got it mostly figured out. I still had forgotten some things that I needed to have set up when we went live today, and I was literally staring like, I know I'm forgetting something. But like when we run actual plays, we try to green room about half an hour before. But make no mistake, Kay and I have been, so like days before or even weeks before, we are in OBS trying to get overlays set up, trying to get like all the different the tech things set up. And then half an hour before you show up for the half an hour green room, Kay and I are in the trenches being like, all right, do we have all these things figured out? And Kay is yelling abuse at me, every foul word I've ever heard of.
All I do.
But like we've run a lot of games, and I'm confident enough where I could just press all the buttons and get everything set up. And yes, tech still, like, things still go wrong, but Kay and I have a lot of experience of it, and we still spend extra time before everybody shows up. So like, if you're doing production, especially if you're relatively new at it, and you're like, wow, this really feels like it's taking a long, that's because it takes a long time. Like Kay said, like, there have been productions that they've been on where it's like, well, I guess we're not going today because we can't get this figured out. And that happens.
Herb wants to know, if you are asked to produce but not run a game, what are the primary things you need to know from the channel /cast/GM?
So from the channel, I need your overlays, any important art that you need me to run. Is there any audio I need to use? If you have Sirenscape set up and you made a playlist in there, okay, do I have access to that? Did you send me a stream key? And I ask all this at least the day before we go live. If I don't have it the day before, I'm just not going to guarantee that I get everything done. But because I need at least a day to go through, and then sometimes I'll go to sleep, I'll wake up and go, oh, you know what? It would be a little better for me if I had this button ready to go but it takes me a while to think of those type of things, right? It doesn't come immediately. So having stuff like that early, and then talking to the DM, kind of having a sense of when do they need timing breaks? Like I will always put in chat, okay, we're 30 minutes in. You have an hour left. You have 5 minutes left. Now it's time to wrap up, right? And do they need that from me, or do they have their own timing clock thing? And I don't need to worry about it.
Get you a date. Yeah. He's great at that.
That's one of my important functions. Is like, Kay, it's been an hour. Someone has to pee. And Kato asks, what are some challenges that are unique to in-person productions and filming versus streaming?
That are unique to in-person. In-person can be a little more, I want to say chaotic in some senses, because, people are in the studio. Do they have their makeup? Is the makeup person doing their job? Is all that. But when you're doing a stream, you as a producer don't have to worry about that, but your cast member still has to, if they do makeup or, costume or whatever, they still have to worry about that. And then you have more, potentially if you're in a studio, you have more time, and you need more time, and you have more people to run a production, because a lot of those studio jobs are kind of squished together, and on a stream they're down to you as a producer. Like, I run the cameras, I run the audio, I am floor manager, I am director, I am producer. That's 5-6 other people who do these jobs, and so a live stream, you're taking little bits of each of those jobs and having to combine all that together and do that. And it takes time to kind of go through that. And, maybe it's not something you have to think about because you've never been in a studio environment. It's just like you're doing this thing, this. Realize it is a lot, and you're putting a lot on yourself to get a production done. You are essentially doing bits of a job from 5-6 different people. So give yourself a break. There's a lot to do, and you're not going to have the normal amount of crew you would expect. Even when I was doing public access, sure, we were all volunteers except for the people on staff who got paid to teach us the things and run the station. Sometimes you wouldn't have all your crew, but we still had people for camera, people for to bring up the graphics. I was usually the tech director, so I always hit the buttons to go when the director said, "Okay, switch to this camera." I was on it, right, and that's all to you. So just realize you are doing a lot, and just give yourself a break on that. It's all right. There's so much to learn here, and some of it's easy and automatic, and some of it takes time. There are things that will mess up in a digital space that will not mess up in the same way in a studio.
I think the biggest challenge which I've certainly not done the level you have, but the biggest challenge I had with in person as opposed to online was crosstalk. And especially if some people don't understand directional mics, and for a very long time I did not either. And they don't understand why their audio sounds terrible when they have a mic in front of every person, but every mic is also picking up every other person within 5 feet of them. So having that's my, audio. I feel like audio is always the biggest challenge. Always.
Audio is the final boss.
It really is.
And one of the big sort of like shell shock moments I had watching TTRPG productions is I was checking out one of the top tier, one of the super popular ones. And I was like, wow. And of course I was comparing. And I was just sitting there going, Kay does a better job of this. Kay does a better job of that. But it got to the end and the credits ran. And I was like, whoa, they have dozens of people working on this. So as you get into production or continue production, as you work on the things that you do, remember that it's an army of people that do it. Like I've said to Kay about 36 times over the past 3 days, hey, you can take a break, right? And that's because Kay is constantly churning, constantly doing things. And I spend a lot of time, even if I'm not necessarily in front of the computer, working on things for the channel and learning things that will eventually be useful for the channel. And Kay and I sometimes like look at each other and we're like, there's not enough time in the day. And the reason is because that's how you hire more people. Some people have like 6 or 7. There are people that have 6 people working on the script. Like just working on the script, getting it and that doesn't take into account like the TV shows and films and the next movie you see, especially if it's like a big Marvel movie that's got like a bunch of like CGI. Sit down and watch the entire credits from start to finish. Same thing with games. Sit down and watch the entire credits and just start like putting in your head how many people are part of that production. And then realize that there are twice as many people who didn't get their names in the credits who were responsible for it.
Starless Solid wants to know, have you ever done production for someone who had a Ping or a VTube avatar? Like, have you dipped into that whole world?
I have not. I have a friend who is a VTuber, and I've been kind of wanting to get them on, but I would figure that their VTube camera would be up and they can send me that signal. Like, even if it's OBS and they just click the virtual cam thing on, and then they send me the OBS virtual cam, and it's their VTube model, and they have all the, because it's on them to have all the things. I can't do all their movements and everything. I can't control all that. They still have to take care of all of that. And the lip flap and all that and how that functions.
Yeah.
But I will take their signal, and probably OBS virtual camera might be one of the easiest ways to do that. So I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I would love to. There's some really great VTubers out there.
Those models are it is impressive what they do. Like, very impressive what they can do. Reactive PNG tubers are all the rage for a group play on the low key tech. Like, part of me feels like I might actually stream a bit more if I had like a VTube avatar, just so I didn't have to do all the setup of like getting me ready for camera, but also just like puppeteering is an art, also an art, that does take having the model that works right and knowing how to animate it, and they are triggers that are set up. It's a very impressive rig. But yes, I think we're getting ready to wind down. But
if I could add
David.
something.
Oh, please.
Something we're kind of touching on, and I want to get into, is why I started doing the Tech Explain thing, especially for TTRPG folks. It's because when I was looking into it, when I was trying to figure it out, there were 2 videos on YouTube that covered TTRPG production. Like, I had a hard time finding them. I found 2, and I took bits of both, and I'm like, okay, we need more on using TTRPG production specifically, because if you're a solo streamer, plenty of advice. But if you want to do a TTRPG, that's kind of a different game. And that's part of the reason I did this. And also, people seem to enjoy me explaining things, so I kept doing it.
Yeah, we followed a lot of advice from you. We followed a lot of advice from a lot of other people. I was very fortunate in that I have worked around people who do this professionally to show off their game, because I worked at Red Bull, because I meet people like Mr. Life Producer who can teach me all sorts of tricks, and just taken all that knowledge and kind of crammed it together. And just like I feel like you and I get driven by the same things, because it's like, yes, I also have I know how to do this. I know how to do the things that most people are doing. I would also like to up my game. I would also like to find something new and interesting. And so that's why I talk about, I break stuff all the time. I go down rabbit holes of things that don't work, because I'm like, if this were just a little bit better, the streaming experience would be so much better. And I want to improve it for me, and then I want to share it and improve it for my friends. So Dave and I have talked about, should I put out some very basic setup videos? Is that covered everywhere? I feel like someone's covered it, but maybe not in the way I would, right? Is that a thing we want to do? But we also have, it's very funny, in our Discord, we have a tech channel and a resources channel for TTRPGs, be it production, be it where to get art, be it writing. And half of the production stuff are links to your videos. So it's just like, This is great. I love being part of a community that shares, because I've definitely been parts of communities where everyone got super competitive and got super protective of their tricks and their knowledge. And that's just not fun. It's just not fun at all.
That doesn't help anyone.
No.
If you ever sit and wonder, oh man, did somebody cover this topic already? Keep in mind that yesterday I saw an article about a Julia Child recipe and how awesome it is. It's been 50 years since that recipe got published, and they're making content about it today like it's some new thing, like they magically discovered. And as much as I might talk trash about somebody who's digging up a 50-year-old recipe that presumably is in everybody's house, because a lot of people grew up in houses with Julia Child cookbooks, it's important to remember that this is how knowledge doesn't get lost. There's tons of stuff how they make Damascus steel, or a lot of old recipes, or how they made certain types of mortar, or what's the napalm that they had, Greek fire. These are all things where this information got lost over time, and now we can't figure out how to do it like they did it. It's important to, even if there are 100 videos on it already, you put out that information, you share your knowledge with people, because that's how people learn more things. In addition, when I go to learn something, because Kay will tell you, a lot of the stuff I know is stuff that I taught myself, I'll crack open 5 YouTube videos and find 6 articles on it, and use all of them to distill the important things that I need to know out of it. Because different people explain things different way, different people focus on different things, and sometimes I have to go through all that to find the one thing that's focusing on the specific thing that I need. So just because, how to make a bechamel sauce has 2,400 videos online doesn't mean that you can't add to that discussion.
Exactly. And thank you for the raid. Hello, Tay. Welcome, Dragonza. Welcome on in. We are actually getting close to wrapping up, but we've had an incredible conversation with DC Lasair, producer to the stars. The video will be up on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's come by with questions. DC, I know that you were like, I want to make sure I get this one, that thing in. Any other final thoughts? Any other thing that you'd like to talk about? Do you want to, tell everyone what they should be keeping an eye out for, even though the announcement isn't up yet?
Oh, sure. So sometime next week, there will be an announcement of a TTRPG actual play that I will be producing and DMing. I tend to do that a lot for,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, something's wrong with me. But I do both. And so look for that. Check my socials. It's at DC Lasair, just about everywhere. Go to my YouTube, please, and click the subscribe button. That'd be great. I'd love that. And if you want to hire me to produce things, email me. Go to my links, and there's a little email button at dclasair.bio.link. You can hit that. Email me. We can talk about it. Yeah. All right.
I know people think it's rough, but in all of my years, I have only not DM'd and I've only not produced a game I was DMing once, and that was the Christmas Lich special because David had taken over by that point. So I don't know, there's a certain control freak in me really likes it. I really have control over everything. It's kind of great and also terrible.
It's also a lot of spinning plates to keep track of.
It is.
We did have one more question from YouTube. Amazing that you worked in public access TV. Got a favorite show that was local to your area that no longer exists?
Oh, yes. What was it called? I don't remember, but it was the best time. It was a woman did a talk show on fashion and etiquette and things like that, and she was a wonderful person. And that experience was everyone that volunteered wanted to keep coming back for her show. And that was such a wonderful experience. I can't remember the name of the show now because it was a while ago. But that is, that is one of my favorite things. It was a fashion show, and just you get on a list and public access, and they call you for opportunities like, hey, we're looking for someone. And I'm like, okay, I got time to do that then. And I just, some shows you fall in with a lot of great people and you just want to keep doing this weekly thing for them. And I really like the fact that I was at the time volunteering, and it was my knowledge set that could give something to the community and help people out. Right. There's not a lot of other things I know, but this I do.
I feel like, public access TV has not gone the way of the dodo yet, but I really feel like the heyday of it has come and gone. And there was something incredibly special and at times bonkers. But there was something special about like the sort of like naked look you'd get at some of the more eccentric personalities in the community for everyone's public access show.
Anyone and Mr. Live Producer said that he worked at his area's version of public access, and I know everyone who's worked on those comes out of it with these incredible skill sets and stories. And yeah, there's a public access. Is it a TTRPG or is it a video game? I think it's a TTRPG called Public Access, which is really cool about going. I think it's by it's
Cordova.
Dark. Yeah. Jason Cordova did this really cool, and it's this kind of 90s cassette punk investigating. It's a group of people who remember a public access show that no one else remembers, so they're investigating that.
Excellent.
Really cool lore out of that. And if you haven't played any of the games by the Gauntlet, they're amazing. I can't announce it yet, but I'm going to be playing a Trophy Dark, and I can't wait. But yes, DC, I cannot thank you enough for coming and spending your time with us on top of everything you already do. Again, we've dropped the YouTube in chat. Give it a follow if you are looking for tips on how to improve your stream, your TTRPG production, or any cool tech stuff. That is the place to go and see it. I am Kay. I have been one of your co-hosts. I'm here with my co-host David every Tuesday doing this. We do the Table Talk Show. We do all things TTRPGs. Thursdays, I play video games on stream. Fridays, David plays video games on stream. Right now, we're both playing video games on stream both days because we are doing our first playthrough, which is a co-op playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 as our home game D&D 5e characters. It's a mess. We've had 2 TPKs.
There will be more.
There will be more. We are pushing all the buttons, and we don't have a benevolent GM to save us. So, that's going well. On Wednesdays, you can find me over at Goblin Cave TV. I play a circus game with Mr. Live Producer. We are a bunch of circus performers who are trying to save the world in our spare time. That's going well. And we're only 4 sessions in. So, 50-50 on if we wipe or not. And I think that's all we really have right now. I will say David and I are about to start playtesting a thing. So if you are interested in doing some playtests, hop on into our Discord.
Also, keep an eye on the events in our Discord because we do have stuff coming up next month that you will want to check out.
Some cool things that, again, we can't announce yet. But DC, thank you again. Remember, go follow DC's. Go subscribe to DC's YouTube. It is free. It's free to subscribe. And keep an eye on his socials because there's a game announcement coming up. And we all can't wait. DC, final thoughts, final words before we run away and figure out who we're going to raid.
It's been delightful to be here. Thank you both. I've been, watching the show for a while now, and it's excellent. Your Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough is just delightful. Both of you are really great. I love watching it.
We have clips coming soon.
Awesome. And I just want to thank everyone who took the time to come on by. I appreciate it. And, you're here for listening to me babble on for an hour and a half or so. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
And thank you for sticking it out for multiple streams in a day because you did stream earlier.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. We are going to run away and find someone to raid. Have a good evening. Remember, be kind to yourself, be excellent to others, and we will see you next time.